followed home.
My boyfriend is in a band, and my sister and I always go to the gigs. He lives in a small city outside a larger city that he always plays in, and we were headed to his house afterwards. My sister and I decided it would be funny to buy him a card, like a child's birthday card, and scratch half out to make it fit for the first gig of the year. We go to Walmart, and as soon as we get inside, we are followed by two men, both in their mid to late 20s. My sister and I are 18 and 20 respectively. I've been followed in places before, and it's always an uncomfortable experience, so we try to lose them. We eventually do, after fast walking through random aisles for 10 minutes. We buy the card and some snacks and head back out to the car. We sit in the parking lot for a bit as we scratch out what we wanted on the card and start to head over to my boyfriend's house. But the guys were watching us from across the parking lot and peel out to follow us. At this point, I notice, and I'm really freaking out. My boyfriend's house is not on a busy road, so we know they're not just happening to go the same way. I call my boyfriend about halfway to his house. The two guys are following us very closely. I explain to him what's happening, so he comes outside and waits for us on his porch. We pull into his driveway and stay in the car for a minute. The two guys drive by really slowly, then speed down the street. My sister and I go inside really shaken up. We notice for the next half hour or so the guys drive by several times, each time really slowly. We lock the doors and windows and pull all the blinds, and that night we slept in the living room. So, creepy Walmart guys who decided to follow us home. Let's not meet.
Two vans chased me.
So, a bit of insight. This happened 3 years ago. I was 16 at the time, and for a series of mistakes I could not go home. Drug-related issues. So, being the idiot that I was, I thought that I could ask a friend to crash on her couch for a night, and thought it was not a big deal, but she ended up canceling because her mother was upset and she didn't want any more trouble. No battery on my phone and no one near to talk to, and I realized I was screwed. After a bit of walking around, washing my teeth in a public restroom, it was getting late and I decided to go sleep in a square. But at about 3 a.m. the guards kicked me out. I wandered a bit until I found some houses next to a forest. It was quiet but nice, so I decided to sleep there. After some minutes I started to hear noises, like people whispering near me, and I started to get worried. Some minutes passed and a black van approached me. It was really dark, but I felt like I was being watched. After a while, he finally goes. I was still scared and looking around to see the van again some minutes later. He returns, but now with someone else in another van. I was paralyzed and didn't know what to do. Then one of them starts to shine his lights at me and talk to me in a weird tone, like the one people use to check if someone is asleep. He gets down, I turn around and look at him, and he sprints in my direction, yelling to the other guy to catch me from the other side. I got up. I was skinny but not in good shape, but I still bolted as fast as I could, nonstop for like 10 minutes. I crossed the bridge and just kept running. They chased me at the beginning, but after that I have no idea what happened to them. The rest of the night I spent looking everywhere, getting away. Super paranoid of any person that came near me. Some hours passed. I decided to go to my grandparents, and luckily enough, they took me in. The worst experience of my life.
He tried to buy me.
I was about 2 or 3 years old, so I don't remember what happened, only what my mom has told me. It started when my mom and stepdad invited some guy in to visit with them. I guess things were going well until he asked, "How much do you want for her?" Thinking that he was playing, they jokingly told him, "She is worth more than you got." A few minutes later he said, "I'll give you 300 for her." Still thinking he was joking, they said no. Again, he went up on the offer until he reached $900. That was when they knew he was not playing and that he truly did want to buy me. They got pissed, and my stepdad picked the guy up and tossed his ass outside and down the stairs, all the while yelling and cussing at him. Thank God they finally realized what a creeper he was and did not leave me alone with him. So, creepy dude who tried to buy me, let's not ever meet again.
She had 3 little girls too.
When I was about 3 or 4, there was a man in his 30s who lived with his parents in my neighborhood named Daryl. He was known all around the neighborhood for his eccentric behavior, as he was a declared schizophrenic from his heavy use of drugs. He would talk to himself, play air guitar for hours in the street, and scream obscenities at nothing. He was also very into little girls and used to wait outside the bus stop just to watch them get off. My mother is a probation officer, and he was quite popular at the court. So whenever he was walking down the street, she would yell for us to come inside. One time my mom threw out old toys of ours, like pink fuzzy boas, wands, and tiaras. She heard someone rummaging in the trash at night but didn't want to go out to investigate. The next day, Daryl shows up to the court for some charge or another, and the boa and tiara we threw out and said to my mom, "You can find such nice stuff in people's trash cans." That freaked her out because the way he said it implied he knew where she lived. A few weeks later, my mom is outside and Daryl approaches her. A week before that, there was a murder at a nearby hotel of a young woman. Daryl said to her, "Hey, did you hear about the murder at the hotel?" My mom tells him yes, she knew. He smiled from ear to ear and just said, "She had 3 little girls too." He just walked away laughing to himself. My mom was so creeped out and unnerved that he might have had something to do with the murder that we moved shortly after. We never saw him again after that, but his mom shot herself in their house and his father moved out, so I'm pretty sure Daryl isn't around the city anymore. Also, as far as I know, the murder was never solved. It's safe to say that I hope we never meet again.
You're not my mother.
My story isn't a long one, but I think it's quite creepy, so I thought I'd share it. I don't really remember this happening, so I'm telling you what my mom has told me, and certainly freaks me out every time I hear it. My mom had taken me shopping with her to our local supermarket when I was 4 years old. She did her best to make sure I stayed close while she put things in the trolley. At some point, she became distracted for no more than a minute and hadn't noticed I'd wandered off. She has still never forgiven herself for that. She She told me she has never felt fear like it, not knowing where I had gone. She began running down the aisle, and when she turned the corner, she saw a woman holding my hand and walking quite fast towards the supermarket door. My mom said she shouted my name, and when I turned around, the woman let go and ran out of the shop. She described the woman as being entirely normal looking, and she never expected anything like this to happen. Over the years, my mom has always thought about it being the worst moment of her life. I'm not a mother yet, but I know that these things can happen. Kids wander, and all it takes is a split second, and we got lucky.
Always let your parents meet your new friends.
When I was 12, my parents were going through a very nasty divorce. Having nowhere else to go, my mom took my two brothers and me to a very small, run-down house. One day, my brother, Kyle, was gone for a bit longer than usual, and my mother was starting to panic. As she was getting ready to call the police, Kyle walked through the door with a big grin on his face and holding a very large sum of money for a 9-year-old boy. He told her that he made friends with the nice man that lived behind us, and that the man had paid him a lot of money to come mow his yard. He had also asked him to come over to play with his grandkids the following day. For some reason that she can't explain, my mother had a bad feeling about this man and demanded to meet him. My brother took her over to the man's house not long after. I didn't hear anything after that except Kyle could not go to his home anymore, but his grandkids were welcome at our house. They never came. Soon after the meeting, the man started to sit outside the gate when Kyle and I were outside and talk to us. He was always very nice and would ask us about whatever it was we happened to be doing. If our mom ended up being home from work, she would immediately call us inside. We eventually moved out of that house, and it wasn't until much later that I figured out why. After meeting the man, my mom automatically didn't like him. To her, he seemed very creepy and she didn't necessarily trust him. She asked for his name and got it. With this, my mom was able to find him on a website called Watchdog, which is a website that helps you find sex offenders in your area. The man that lived behind us, as well as a few of our other neighbors, were registered sex offenders. If it weren't for my mom being as paranoid as she has a tendency to be, I truly believe something horrible could have happened to my brother.